Hi there. Have you ever heard someone say, you always do this? Or you never think about anyone but yourself? Maybe you are the one that you often says this to others. The reality is, it starts as a concern, but somewhere, somehow, it ends in an argument. Why? Because in expressing our concern, we indirectly initiate an attack, and that changes everything. Welcome to Streams of Emotions. In this podcast, we learn, we listen, and we lessen the load of emotions. I'm your host, Moses. You can call me Mo for short, and I'm really glad you are here with me again. In today's episode, we want to look at criticism, why concerns become character attacks. If you have ever wondered why small conversations become big fights, why feedback from others may hurt more than it helps, or why people become defensive whenever you are trying to help them, then stay with me. And this episode might change the way you communicate forever. In our previous episode, we talked about defensiveness, and it is one of John Gottman's four horsemen that destroy relationship. And today we are looking at another one, which is criticism. You see, there's something I've come to realize that problems don't usually destroy relationships. However, the way we talk about those problems or address the problem does. So it's not about the problem in itself, but how we go about addressing those problems or challenges, how we communicate our intentions, how we communicate our concerns. That makes a big difference. Mostly people will not just wake up intending to criticize others or to cause problems or to destroy their own relationship. No, rationally, we don't do that. But criticism often starts with a genuine concern. Maybe your spouse forgot an important date. Maybe your friend arrived late again. Maybe your coworker missed a deadline again. These are genuine concerns. But irrespective of this concern, this situation, how you talk about it or how you address it makes a difference. A concern will go like, oh, I felt disappointed when you arrived late because I was waiting for you. This is to a friend that has been late again. But a criticism will go like, you are always late. You are always irresponsible. You don't think about anyone but yourself. When you do that, you are criticizing the person. You are attacking the image of the person, the identity of the person, and you are not addressing the problem at all. So, criticism often attacks a person's character, but concerns address a specific behavior. And that is, once again, that is what John Gottman's research addresses when it comes to the four horsemen. He explains that criticism goes beyond complaining about the problem. Instead, it attacks the person's core identity. And so, whenever we hear ourselves using words like always, never, every time, what's wrong with you? You are just like this person, or you are just like this, or you can't do anything right. Know that you are treading on a path of what? Criticism. And oftentimes, this end up destroying what you wanted to help with. There is a twist of why we criticize people, and that is very interesting. And that is mostly because criticism emerges from unmet emotional needs. Yes, when we feel ignored, when we feel unappreciated, disappointed, stressed, or overwhelmed, and we do not know how to communicate those feelings because they make us rather very vulnerable, then we try to attack the personality of a person. For instance, you want to have a conversation with someone, something very dear to you, but in your attempt to do so, the person is busy on their phone and trying to do so many things at a time and it's not giving you the needed attention. Right away, you need an attention. That is your unmet emotional need. However, you criticize a person by attacking the person's personality and saying you are always on your phone. You always don't care. Yes, that is an aspect of the situation, but the reality is that you need an attention. You need care. You need a person to be there for you. So that is your unmet emotional need that you want to communicate. But mostly we don't communicate our vulnerable emotional needs directly. So the point is this: many times criticism is not the real message. Beneath the accusation is often a hidden request, a request of people wanting for a connection, wanting for an attention, wanting for care or love. Yes. So when we learn to listen for the need behind the criticism, conversation can become opportunities for connection instead of what? Conflict. And also when we learn to communicate our vulnerability to others, it also help build the needed connection. One aspect that also cause criticism to develop is when we allow small disappointment to pile up for a very long time. So, for instance, when someone does something that frustrates you or hurts you, instead of addressing it immediately, we allow it to pile up for a very long time. And it gets to a point where one simple thing may trigger everything. And when that happens, you indirectly go straight to attacking the person. And this does not help. So, what can we do about situations like this? We must learn to let people know the various disappointments or the various concerns that we have about them on first hand. And that helps so you don't develop kind of an emotional pile of situation for a long time. Doing this, I believe, will help avoid criticism. Let's look at another twist of human beings that we all need to give attention to, and psychologists often call it the fundamental attribution error. Mostly, we explain other people's mistake by blaming who they are. However, in explaining our mistakes, we blame circumstances, and this makes a big difference. For example, when someone cuts you in traffic, you think, oh, he's a rude driver. But when you do the same thing, you may say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see them, or because I'm busy. You realize that this is the same action but different explanation. So we judge ourselves by our intentions, we judge ourselves by our circumstances. However, we judge others by their behavior and we attack their personality. And this is the mental shortcut that fuels criticism. Judging people based on who they are and judging ourselves based on our intentions or the behavior. And in helping with this situation, John Gottman developed an antidote and he referred to it as the gentle startup. So, a gentle startup involves describing the situation, using I statements, expressing your feelings, and asking for what you need. These are very important. First, you need to describe what the situation is. What did the person do wrong? And tell the person how it made you feel. This is because people generally don't know how they make you feel. Sometimes you need to let them know. So you need to express your feelings. Use the I statement so that it doesn't be like you're attacking the person. So you say, I felt sad instead of you make me sad. It changes everything. And also ask for what you need. You need an attention. Tell the person, let the person know that you need an attention. So let's go back to the phone scenario. Just as I mentioned, you need a connection, you need an attention, you need love, you need a person to concentrate on what you are saying. Let a person know instead of using you are always rude, you're on your phone, and those kind of things. It doesn't help at all. Now, what about constructive criticism? Yes, people need constructive criticism. Giving people feedback, specifically telling them things that they can do to improve or things that they can do to get better is very important. You see, constructive criticism addresses specific challenges. It's not vague. Sometimes people may say something very general, but it also offers practical steps that will help an individual to improve. And one thing I've realized is that people can describe problems in so many ways, but they don't offer some specific guidelines on what an individual can do to help them. And whenever we don't offer guidelines, we are not applying constructive criticism because constructive criticism want to help the person to improve, not just identifying a problem. You get it. And there is another side of criticism that we can't ignore, and that is self criticism. Not all criticism comes from others. Mostly, some of the harshest critics may be within you. Sometimes you do certain things and say, oh, I'm so stupid. I always mess up. I will never be enough. I am always late. Once again, using statements like this means you are criticizing your own selves. You are attacking your own identity. And when you do that, you prevent yourself from even making some improvement that may help you. And so, The next time you feel frustrated with someone or you feel frustrated with yourself, pause and ask yourself, am I describing the behavior or am I judging the person or myself? We need to pause and ask ourselves this question. It's very important. Notice whenever you start using statements like always, never, every time, pause and replace it with something specific and watch how other people might respond to you. Criticism does not begin with bad intentions. Most of the time, it begins with unmet needs, disappointment, or frustrations. But when concerns become character attacks, then we indirectly build emotional bruises in relationship, and that affect everything. The reality is that people are willing to change when they feel understood and not when they feel condemned. Remember, problems are not necessarily what destroys relationship, but how we talk about them or address them does often destroy the relationship. I hope you have learned something from this episode and you are willing to apply it in ways that will improve your communication. Until next time, learn about your emotions, listen to them, and use them to your advantage instead of allowing them to manipulate you. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful time. Bye.